my name is Kate Russell, and it is a very great pleasure to be with you again this year for SLI Connect. This annual event brings together you, the leading retailers, in one place to talk about, explore and learn.
So this is a creation of the Oscar award-winning animator Mark Sagar.
Hey Jason, is everything all right?
No, not really.
We were founded in 1792 and we were the first UK books retailer to get into iPads and mobile apps for ebooks.
So could I ask you all to stand up, please? Okay, so who has ever worked as a waiter or waitress? Okay, who has a Duke of Edinburgh award? Does that mean you're Sophie Wilson?
As part of the customer success team, we work with you. We want you to be a success.
Millennials are a little bit like Doug from Up in terms of you don't have much time to grab their attention.
So the winner is Astley Clark.
Please welcome to the stage our next keynote speaker, Chris Edge.
Thanks, Kate. Welcome those guys that don't know me. My name's Chris, and I head up the customer success team here at SLI. And what we do is when we get new people sign up with SLI, we implement them, we train them, and then we work with you throughout your time with SLI to make sure that your site search is optimized, it's working well for you, you're getting a great return on investment, and you stay with us for some time. For those people that do know me and have been to SLI Connect before, you probably know that this is the presentation where I get up and bang on about the very important site search statistics and optimization, which is very, very, very important to your site search success, but can be a little bit dull. Now, there's good news and there's bad news in that today I'm going to be talking about 20 things you didn't know about SLI systems. So what happened, I basically emailed the global customer success team, I emailed our products team, I emailed some of our senior management to give me some insights in what you think we do as a company, some of the kind of niche things that our customers may not know about. But the bad news is a lot of them email me back telling me about some of the more obscure statistics and analytics that I was trying to avoid. But just bear with me, there may be a couple of gems in here that you find useful. So the first thing, what's in a name? Now, what I can do is confirm that we are called SLI systems. We're not called SLI systems. Now, when we get some clients who have gone through the entire sales process, we have a meeting and they say, we're really excited to be signed up with SLI systems. And we'll look at the sales guys and they'll kind of sheepishly go, well, they called it that in the first meeting and we never dared correct them. But we are actually called SLI systems. And I think one of the things that has kind of annoyed more of our marketeers is it's not really kind of an e-commerce buzzy word company. I think they'd love it if we were called something like Brilliant Search or Amazer Results, because that seems to be a little bit more on trend for the e-commerce company. But when I've talked to the founders and people like that, they were mainly engineers, and they've kind of said, we were more interested in the technology than we were the marketing. And for some companies, that's kind of the other way around. But I think for SLI, it's certainly true, because this was our first logo, and I think you can obviously tell that it was designed by engineers. Nothing kind of screams we're an amazing technology company like those fonts, the trademark, you've got to get that in your logo. And I guess at some point they kind of looked at each other and said, this doesn't look like a site search system, so let's put 3 interlinking rings in there that will really drive the message home. Now, we've been working with marketing teams ever since, and this is kind of how we've now evolved into a kind of a lot more modern web-based type of company. But you'll still see that SLI systems, and the SLI is still quite prominent in there. And there is actually a rhyme and a reason for that. It stands for Search, Learn and Improve. And it's kind of the core of what we originally did with our search engine. We watch what people search for. We see what they look on. We learn from that behavior and we improve the site search. So SLI does actually stand for something. It means Search, Learn and Improve. Now, having said that, however, we're not just about search. Kind of every client that we've got at SLI uses our search, but we do so much more than just search. We talked today about recommendations. We have things like Site Champion, our user-generated SEO tool. We do navigation, mobile and merchandising. So we're much more now, as we've evolved as a company, search is still our core product, but please be aware, we don't just do site search, that there's a lot more to our technology than just that. And we've now repackaged this as the buyer engine. Bingo, someone up there. So mine's a pint later for that. So just be aware, that there's lots and lots of other products and things that we may be able to help you with in your e-commerce company. As you can probably tell by kind of Sean's accent, and we've touched about it today, we are a New Zealand company, but we do have a global reach, and we're quite proud of the fact that our origins are from New Zealand. You'll see in some of our marketing and the way we style ourselves, we still kind of retain that Kiwi touch. And just to give you an idea, if you weren't aware, that obviously we have offices in New Zealand, so we've got 91 employees there. We've got 2 in Japan, 9 in Australia, 22 over here in the London office, and that covers all of the engineers, marketing, sales, and customer success. We're all based out of the London office. And then another office in North America in San Jose. So we have 5 different office locations, 175 employees, and 36 different nationalities within that mix. And what's really interesting about that is that within the New Zealand office, which has 91 employees, 30 of those nationalities are in that Christchurch office. So that gives us a very worldwide feel in the development of the product that we kind of do down there, and an outlook on what's happening kind of in the rest of the world. But if you kind of look at that number, 30 into 91, that kind of means that 30 different nationalities have had to integrate into the New Zealand culture. And kind of talking to people who have worked down there in Christchurch, and I'm not just saying it's our Germanic employees, but they've kind of had to learn a little bit about small talk. Kind of rushing into somebody's office and then stopping and saying, yes, hang on, I must discuss the weather first, or the rugby, or the cricket, how did that go on? So they've kind of been taught a little bit more in the New Zealand kind of culture, and some of them kind of, yes, I've talked about the weather, I've talked about the sport, can I talk to you about what I come in for there? So there's some interesting discussions, and with all these different nationalities, we get a good outlook on our development. Now, the volume of searches that we do, we started tracking this in 2014, and it's a nice statistic to show, because you'll see as we've gone on that the actual number of queries we serve is kind of growing at quite a big rate. So from about 11 billion in 2014 to now just under 18, and kind of ever expanding, and that's billions. They're big numbers. Is 1 million a lot? Is 100,000 a lot? And to give you a bit of context into the queries that we're serving up, if you set the clock at midnight on New Year's Eve as the kind of the bell goes, the number of queries that we serve up, if Google started their counter on how many queries they actually serve, they would overtake us on the 27th of January at some point in the afternoon. They would then pass that 18 million mark and go on from there. Google are one of the world's biggest companies. You know, everybody's heard of them. We're just SLI, you know, a player in the e-commerce space. But that can give you an idea of, you know, what 18 billion queries actually means. And, you know, we can probably do an entire day's worth of talk about the infrastructure and how we handle those, and especially peaks and that type of thing. But that's probably for another time. At SLI, we have what we call an innovation day. Sean's touched on it a couple of times, that we've done certain things in innovation days. So it's a day that all the SLI employees get to work on something that they think can make a difference to the business. And you can do that individually or in teams. It's completely optional. You know, it's not a forced participation thing. But if you do take part in it, all kind of the company asks is you prepare a video, you know, about what you've worked on and what you've spent your time on. And it doesn't have to be an engineering thing. It can be kind of anything. So if you've got a business proposal or something like that that you want to work on, you can do that. So I kind of picked 3 examples here. The first one is our CTO, Wayne. Now, we talked about that the companies it was founded by engineers. He is chief engineer. He's the guy that kind of the most cleverest software engineer that built a lot of our original tools. So what would he get up to on an innovation day? Now, within our development tools, each client-facing engineer can work on, you know, multiple different customers. And so let's say, for example, we're doing a task for Next. We check kind of the code out, you know, our internal systems go out, pull all of that down, and kind of, as you've all seen on web pages, when there's a little delay, there's a spinner that kind of just makes sure, hey, you know, we're still working on this, bear with me, and then it eventually brings the products back. So what Wayne, our CTO, decided to do is the SLI spinner, waiting doesn't have to be unattractive. Now, that's what we had previously. An engineer who built the tools out thought, well, we need something visual to show the users that something's happening. Bob's your uncle, that'll do, 2-minute job, let's move on to working something else. Now, it's probably something that Wayne would probably like to put in Room 101 or something like that if you've watched that. So he wasn't happy that we just got this spinner. He wanted to integrate the SLI logo into this. And off the top of my head, I can probably think of 5 or 6 different websites where I can just upload a logo. It will do some fancy spinning, download it, and again, Bob's your uncle, let's move on to something else. But not our CTO. He built an entire CAD-based model of our logo with its bevels, its curves, it has its height, its dimension. He spent a whole lot of time writing how this could work within a true physics environment, so how often it should spin, how the speed it should spin at, all kinds of different things about lamps and shadings and things like that. And to be fair, we turned up with kind of quite a nice, neat product. Now, this is now on our internal development tools. And I think you'll agree, kind of Wayne's design skills have moved on quite a bit since that first logo that I showed you. Now, the second one was a client-facing team member, Adam. Now, I don't know if you work with developers and things like that. What you tend to find as you look throughout the office is who is the alpha developer, who is the big man in town, who runs the code. And you can probably tell that by the number of monitors that they've got. A junior engineer kind of just has 1, you know, a more senior may get 2, you know, and as we go on. Adam has lots and lots of different screens that are all absolutely critical to him. He has to have all of these screens. Now, the difficulty is Adam was always late for meetings. And he said, I've got too many screens. The Outlook pop-up that comes up, if I'm working over here on bits of code and that type of thing, I don't see this flashing here and reminding me. So he came up with this, I Love LAMP. It's a very quotable thing from certain films that our developers like to quote from Anchorman. And you'll kind of get an idea of to why he named it this. Because what he did, he created a desktop application that kind of synced into all of his Outlook diaries. So he made all of this security and that type of thing that brought all of this information about his calendar back. He then wrote a whole bunch of code that did some very nifty things that then via a serial port came into a circuit. And you can just see here on the top left-hand side, this is a roll of LED lights. And what he then did, he tied that into his into this program that he'd written. And when it was time for a meeting, all of these LED lights that he had all around his monitor started flashing. And for somebody with obviously no development experience, I think that's kind of amazing that somebody can just knock that up in half a day or so. And that's not, I think that's probably a concept that's not too far away from being integrated into a very minimal German-style lamp that kind of sits on an executive's desk and gives a nice warm glow when it's time for him to go to a meeting that could probably sell for a couple of £100. And he just did that because he was late for meetings. And the final one that I want to show you, I've basically taken this straight from the presentation that the engineer did. He built Spelling Champion, a Java application which allows you to see live spelling mistakes. So within SLI's system, if we detect a word that we don't see in the data feed and we can't figure out what it is, we'll fall back to a spelling rollover and we'll kind of say, did you mean? So what this does is takes that information in real-time data, and it allows us to compare nations by spelling ability. It plays the national anthem of the country with the worst spelling over a period of time. Why not? It's his innovation day. And it allows us to draw unfair and statistically inaccurate conclusions based on national stereotypes. And he came up with this. And, I'm not saying Americans and Australians are stupid. An MP would say the statistics clearly show, that America are up there and Australia are up there. And I think it's a little unfair because during New Zealand time when this was built, America and Australia were probably online most. But from quite a fun little application, this then allowed everybody in SLI to start to see how the spelling suggestions were working in different countries. Once we could start to visualize this, we could see some clear mistakes that was happening in here. So we were able to make adjustments and various different changes based on this data. So for something that could be quite trivial, this was quite a good innovation. So I'm now going to talk about a little bit more technical about some of the things that you can do within your live SLI search results simply by appending URL parameters to the results that SLI bring back. Now, the first one that I want to talk about is what we call ampersand OP equals 1. And the way that we surface this information for each URL, so this top bit will be your domain. SLI kind of brings this back. So let's say I'm looking for a black dress. W equals is our keyword parameter. So whatever the keyword is follows this. If I add ampersand OP equals 1 to the end of a search result, you will actually see a bit of information about why SLI's algorithm has brought the products back in the order that they have. So each product has a score based on the keyword that we've originally seen. So we will rank products based on your attribution, and then based on that keyword, we will give it a score. We will then watch what people click on, watch how they interact with that, and it will then get a learning score. So that learning score combined with the relevancy score determines the position that things happen. Now, OP stands for original position, and what this means is that when we first saw this product, we would have ranked it in position number 3 for the term black dress. This one would have been in position number 16. This one would have been in position number 19. But the learning has kind of influenced the results and brought this back into these positions. So OP equals 1 can give you that information about how the index is working. Ampersand SLI underscore no learning says what would happen to the products if the no learning was in there. So if we go back here and we check this, this dress out here, it was in position number 3, it's now in position number 1. When we append no learning, we would have originally seen this dress in position number 1, this one in 2, and this one in its original position number 3. So it can give you an idea of what would have happened before SLI came into operation. We allow all of our clients to tune results, so you can change the order of any result that you get within our result set. And we could, what SLI underscore no tunings does is exactly that. It turns the tunings off so it can give you an idea of what you have curated into your search results. Well, what would SLI have put there previously? So on here, I've done a search for cardigan, and I'm going to put the OP equals 1 in here, but we've got a cream cardigan, we've got a zip kind of jacket, and 2 of the dark cardigans here. So the OP equals 1, what I can see here is these now have a tuning score. So what this tells me, these have all been tuned and they're now re-ranked by a tuning score. We would have put this in position number 12, we would have put this in 30, 4 and 13. So what you need to look at is the zip one here and the light cardigan here. Once I append the no tunings equals 1, this is what SLI would have brought back, a completely different set of results. So if you have made tunings to your site, you can actually append these parameters in here to see what SLI would have brought back. And does that kind of make sense? You know, would I get a better experience with this? And you can see here now the tuning has gone, and we would have been moving positions from mid-20s to 30s. So they can give you an idea of how the learning would have interacted with no tuning. SLI underscore jump, bear with me, I know this is kind of hard to do, but what this does, it suppresses the redirect functionality. So if you have said that, let's say, for example, anybody that searches for bags, I don't want to see a search result, I want to see my curated landing page. Well, this is what I'm driving people to for bags. Once I append the SLI underscore jump parameter, that stops that jump to your page from happening, and then we can see the products that SLI would have brought back as well. So as a merchandiser, you can now start to see various different things about how the learning would work compared to how you're merchandising things. Now, the evolution of our index. Possibly some of our older clients, and you may, when you're talking to your customer success manager, run into a bit of strange terminology. We may refer to things as Moby, we may refer to things as Dory, and for most clients, as long as the index is working okay, you don't really care what that is. But a little bit like why we're called SLI systems, there is a little story behind this. And you know, I don't want to belittle our engineers, but at the very highest level, you give us a data feed, we feed that into our search index. That does a whole load of things with regards to sorting your attributes out. Search users query the search index, we return results back. Now, when we originally built the search index, and the founders will kind of remember this, that we needed to build a search index that could be relevant and queried and that type of thing. But they needed a volume of text to actually put in there so that they could control what the relevancy and things like that was coming back. And they used chapter 1 of Moby Dick. So they fed that into this search index. That's what they used originally to test that. And ever since then, the search index was then known as MOBI. Fast forward a couple of years, the MOBI index has been in production. Lots of clients are using it. But the technology is starting to move on. The technology is starting to change. MOBI's been added to. It's had bits taken away from it. It's not as efficient as it could be. So we decide as a company to build Search Index Volume 2. But what we realize is that we've already got lots and lots of clients whose learning and everything else is in our MOBI index. So the new search index, whatever that is, needs to be able to talk to MOBI, needs to be able to communicate to MOBI. It needs to be able to speak whale. Now, I'm pretty sure some of you who've got kids of a certain age have already twigged on where we're going with this and why we call it Dory, because in the film Finding Nemo, as Dory is off on his search looking for Nemo, he gets eaten by a whale and everything looks terrible for the film. It could just be ending there. Then Dory realizes that she can speak whale. So ever since then, that's now been known as our Dory index. So gives a little bit of a human element to our engineers. You know, they're not just cold-hearted people with no sense of humor. But it doesn't stop there. No. So the Dory index is now with all of our clients, and we then build recommendations out, and that has a slightly separate index. It uses a lot of the information that the Dory index uses, but whereas that's based on learning and manipulation of search results, Rex has to work a little bit differently. It has to work on categories and kind of bought, also bought. So it too has to speak to Dory, but it's not, it needs Dory to be its friend. Finding Nemo again, what do we call this? This is Bruce. So Bruce, if you do remember the film, fish are our friends. We must treat them with respect. And our recommendations index, if you ever hear the customer success managers say we need to change the strategies in the Bruce index, that's what they're talking about. One of the things that we can do now that some people don't realize is that broken index can be reviewed and approved within our merchandising console. So whenever you guys send us an index, we run a number of checks on that. Now, if that falls outside of a certain threshold, it has less products than what we're used to seeing, it has more, or there's some kind of vital things missing, we will suspend putting that index live. Now, what you can actually do within the merchandising console, if you look up here on this section here, whenever you look at your index, you can start an index from the merchandising console, you can cancel one that's being run. You can preview a broken index, so you can click on this and another window will open up and it will do searches against that broken index. And if you're happy with it, you know, it could well be, yes, we've just had a new category put in. We've now got 300 more products than the last good feed. You can actually go in and manually approve this here. You don't have to phone SLI or put a support ticket in here if you know and you're happy that the index can be approved. We have multiple language support. Now, I simply pulled this up through Google Translate, but it gives you an idea of some of the languages we support. I think we've got 24 different languages, but also another thing to note is our merchandising console can also be used with different languages. You simply change the settings within your browser and we can pull this information in, and all of the settings can be translated into different languages. Facets can be tuned quickly and easily. Now, it's quite often when I go to a client, I'll see, we'll be reviewing the tune results that they've done, and for one result, they may have tuned 80 different products into that result set. And it's kind of like, why did you do that? And he said, well, we want everything from this category to appear on the top. Now, it can get a little lost. So this is the tune results section. I've done a search for paper. Down here are the facets that would appear on live, this panel here. They can be expanded, and then you can see all of the products. So brand, for example, we can see 20 from 3M. We can see the live results here. And we've still got the filters in here to hide, promote, and demote. So let's say, for example, I wanted to put all of the 3M products to the top of the search results for paper. All I do is hover my mouse into the 3M and drag and drop that entire category into the promotion. I don't have to go and find all of the things in that category if I know I want to quickly promote individual categories. And once I've done that, you'll see that whenever anything matches that keyword and is that particular brand, they will appear at the top of the search results. Synonyms, they can be one and two ways. So an example here, hat and cap, yeah, that kind of makes sense. You know, I want anybody searching for hat also to search for cap, anybody searching for cap the other way into hat. Now, what I obviously do here, if I reference everything as medical wear, if somebody searches for healthcare, I want them to bring the medical wear back, but not the other way around. So depending on how you attribute things, you can actually start to control synonyms much easier. And the way that you do that is over here on the right-hand side. You can change this to one and two-way synonyms, and this will alter the order in there. The poor results threshold can be changed. Now, your customer success manager should be reviewing this with you. Now, we deem a poor result as a result that has a less than a 10% click-through rate. So if I look in the standard poor result here, we've got TV, iPhone, iPhone 6, and Samsung all showing with a 10% or less click-through rate. And that's kind of the low-hanging fruit. That's kind of where I can start to make changes to these. I can put synonyms and tune results to make these more relevant to my users. But once I've done that, I can actually change the threshold that we deem a poor result. So it's up here in settings. So once I've clicked that, a little drop down here will come. What you want to do is hit this metrics button and change the click-through percentage rate threshold. So if I now change this from 10% to 20%, I see a completely different set of results in here. I'm now seeing laptops and beds and TVs with a much higher search rate. So once I've manipulated the ones for the 10%, I can start moving up to 20 and 30 and continually optimizing the site through the poor results. Lots of people look at the default settings and are not aware that can be changed. One of the graphs that, again, doesn't often get mentioned is the percentage of clicks in the top 5 positions. And this can be actually quite useful because it can tell me two things. It can tell me how popular or how relevant my search is, because if, you know, once we get over kind of 70% of people clicking in the top 5 results, you know, I've got a good idea that the majority of my search is relevant. People are finding what they're looking for. But from a kind of a search perspective, it gives you an idea of how valuable these top 5 positions are. You know, once you kind of get down, we have other graphs that kind of show the click rank of where people have clicked. Once you get below 5, you'll see the drop off suddenly kind of fall away. People don't normally paginate. They don't really, unless you grab their attention in their first 5 results, they may well abandon the search. So this percentage of clicks in the top 5 positions can be quite relevant. We had a question get asked to Sean, is there a report with our most valuable keyword? Yes, there is. At the moment, it's only a staff-only report, but we can now release that on kind of for each individual client. Now, the reason it's kind of staff-only is we are running numerous tests to ensure the accuracy of it, but we're fairly confident in the results that are coming back. And what things like this can tell me, the people that use the keywords in your internal search system, it's the same type of language that they use on Google. So we had a client that deals in electronics and laptops, they were using their PPC spend, bidding on kind of Lenovo and Acer with everybody else out there, really expensive PPC words to bid on. But what they realized is, you know, for things like white laptop and pink netbooks, we know that people who come on our site and search for this are revenue generators. So if I bid on Google for these particular terms, they're in the market for it. I know if I get them to the site, I can get them converting. So this can be quite a valuable report, especially if you're using this for PPC campaigns. We have a zero results report. So Sean kind of touched on this earlier. What are my top phrases with zero results? So you can very quickly and easily see, well, do we sell cable ties? If not, I know 216 people have been looking for it. We've given them a zero result. The chances are they're now off somewhere else. It may well be you call them zip ties or something like that. So kind of put synonyms in, put some tune results in for relevant products or brands that you don't particularly, that you may not stock that people are searching for, or feed this back to your buying team. If there's products in here that volumes of people are looking for, this is really valuable data. The banner locations can be flexible and added anywhere in the page. Now, normally by default, we have banner locations at the top and the bottom of the results, so it's kind of generally some artwork that we put in front of things to merchandise them. But we can actually have them anywhere. You can have specific ones for mobile, you can have meta description and keywords, you can have banner locations skyscraping down the left-hand side under the facets. If there's a location on the page that you want these put on, just let your customer success manager know. We can create that kind of div within the page, and you can then insert content into there. And Sean touched on this earlier, the changes that we made to the site revenue console. And this kind of stemmed, I think, from a conversation we had about a year ago. I was in our San Jose office. We were kind of having a strategy meeting about why customers were using certain products, why uptake wasn't very good on certain products, and we were losing clients to Site Champion. Now, we could prove in Google Analytics that these were profitable and, you know, giving a return on investment, but I said that's not really good enough. You know, we need to be able to show this within the Search Console. And, you know, kind of our CEO said, Chris, if you can prove there's an ROI, why are people turning it off? You're not talking to the right people. But by looking at things like this now, having more control over the pages that Site Champion creates, having more visibility on this, being able to activate and exclude products now makes Site Champion a much more viable product. And this is real data. I've just stripped a US client's data on here. And if you look at, you know, some of this top one here, total revenue $22,767. That's from 131 referrals. Site Champion is a cost per click, so there's a cost per referral, generally around the 30 cents. So the total cost here would have been $39.30. So for every $1 spent, that page generates £579. Now, it may well be that an e-commerce manager may not have budget set aside for Site Champion. It's a variable cost. It can be a bit of a shock. But if I was then talking to your CEO or your financial director, and I said, hey, we've got a machine, if you put $1 into it, it spits £579 out, they're not going to be very keen if you say, yeah, I'm just going to pull the plug on that one. So now I think we're in a much better place with Site Champion, much better controls, and you can actually start to see real tangible benefits to that. So that's 20 things about SLI that you may or may not have known, but I didn't want to be outdone by Pets Pajamas, so I've added a separate one in here, and it's simply SLI, we are a dog-friendly company. We kind of encourage people to bring their dogs to work, and here's some of the people there. So if you do come and visit us in our offices, worldwide. Remember to bring some dog treats because we may well have an additional visitor. And I think you'll all agree that this dog here is the cutest because that's my dog Frankie. So hope you found that useful. As part of the customer success team, we work with you. We want you to be a success. That's kind of the name of our team. So it's our job to ensure that you know things like this. It's our job to ensure that you know what the stats mean, to make sure you're aware of additional products and additional revenue that SLI can be generating for you. I can see some of them in here. I really don't want to give them big heads, but the customer success team here, they're probably the UK's experts on site search, analytics and testing. And we are a resource here for you, our customers, to use. So please use us, please get in touch with us, set some business reviews up. We want to go through all of this information with you, make you a lot more money while you're using SLI. Thank you.
Brilliant, wonderful, fascinating inside information as well. Any quick questions for Chris before we crack on with our final keynote of the day? Yes, lady down there. I'm losing my voice.
It's just a really simple question. When you were saying about the top 5 results having more impact than anything else, does that differ whether it's a grid or a list view?
It can do. So obviously, grid view, you tend to see more products be above the fold. List view, you tend not to see that. So we've done A/B split testing for quite a few clients to see which one kind of works better. Generally, the more products that you get above the fold, the more visible search you get, the more chance you are of people clicking on that and converting.
Perfect. Any more questions for Chris? Brilliant. Well, he's going to be here this evening, I should imagine, so you can capture him at some point if you haven't managed to think of a question and you think of one later. So please put your hands together for Chris.